Yeah, from my perspective, fundraising is a skill. It's a specific skill that has best practices and the way to do it well. Like any other skill, like marketing or HR or product management or engineering or finance, like all these things that founders can outsource and delegate to people on their team. Fundraising is the one skill that you can't delegate.
All right, this is another episode of the Founders Pack Form Your Own Pack podcast. My guest today is Will Sachs, and it's Fulcrum Ventures. I forgot the last part.
Accelerator.
Accelerator. I was going to say studio, but that's not right. Fulcrum Ventures Accelerator. We almost had it down. I apologize for that.
Fulcrum Venture Accelerator.
Fulcrum Venture Accelerator. Perfect. All
Nailed
right.
it.
So, since I did a terrible introduction, why don't we ask Will, who is Will Sachs and what is Fulcrum Venture Accelerator?
Yeah. Hey, Michael. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
So I'm a technology entrepreneur and an engineer by training, and the CEO and founder of Fulcrum Venture Accelerator. We're an online accelerator program that's focused around helping early stage founders raise seed capital and teaching them the skill of fundraising, which is, as I think you know, a very strange skill and unlike any other skill in an entrepreneur's toolbox. Um, and I came to this after I founded a women's health company called Kindara in 2009. And I ran that for 7 years and we raised a bunch of money and the company was acquired in 2018. And then I started just working with founders one-on-one who were building stuff that I thought was cool. And people started approaching me and saying, "Hey, Will, you raised this money for Kindara. Like, how did you do it? Because I'm struggling with my seed round. And can you teach me how to do this? Like, how do I meet investors? How do I close investors? How do I bring rally investors around an opportunity and get people to move?" And so I started teaching this and realized that this is a hole in our entrepreneurial ecosystem, and that fundraising is actually a skill that can be taught. And if you don't know it and you're not naturally good at it, it can sink your company as a founder, and does every day for hundreds or thousands of founders. So we help founders get really good at that one skill and use that to take their companies to the next level by getting their seed rounds closed.
I love it. I think a lot of venture accelerators, for lack of a better term, or studios focus a lot on product. So it's interesting now that you say that, how you focused on being able to approach and acquire investors. So I guess, was it your own experience? Is that why you discovered that that was really important and
Yeah.
what resonates with founders?
Yeah. Like I raised all these little angel rounds at Kindara. So I raised like 300,000 or 500,000, 600,000, these little angel rounds. And I realized through that process that there was a repeatable way to do it, that there's steps. And we've now broken that down into a 5-step model. And we teach that to our founders. And if you follow the steps, that's how you bring together a round and get it closed. Um, so it was really just teaching, like looking back and realizing, like, how did I do this? Because when I started Kindara, I had no idea how to raise investor money. I'd never done it before. And I just, a lot of trial and error, man. It was like years of trial and error and making stupid mistakes that cost me millions of dollars. And then now we help other founders, hopefully not make those mistakes, make different mistakes.
Do you find it's the same process? Like, are you always approaching angel investors, or does this also work for VCs? Like, I know we're seeing such a blurring of the lines between seed and pre-seed and the
Yeah,
size.
I think it works for every stage. Yeah. Pre-seed, like angel stage, pre-seed, seed, series A. As you know, the numbers get more important as the further along you get. At the beginning, you don't have any numbers. By the time you're at Series A, you should have something proven
Right.
and scaling. So you need to have that. But on top of that, why are some founders able to go in with a napkin and walk out with a term sheet, and other founders who have customers and revenue and a team and everything that it seems like they should succeed, but sometimes those people don't succeed. Uh,
So,
and
I mean,
my
what's the answer
perspective,
to that?
yeah, from my perspective, fundraising is a skill. it's a specific skill that has best practices and the way to do it well, like any other skill, like marketing or HR or product management or engineering or finance, like all these things that founders can outsource and delegate to people on their team. Fundraising is the one skill that you can't delegate. And so if we're technology founders and we're raising money, we got to learn that skill. And where do you learn that skill? Some people are lucky enough to be mentored,
True.
uh, or they have advisors or they have people in their networks that can mentor them and teach them that skill. But it takes a while and there's a lot to learn. And in fundraising, if you learn by doing and making mistakes like I did, you can just end up burning a lot of bridges and taking a lot of time and energy.
So I think where I was kind of curious, and I think this is one of those unasked questions that founders have. Because you mentioned, for example, people will, we always kind of advocate, like I mentioned to you, rapidly prototype, go talk to real customers, be able to make a 1 minute pitch. In your experience, are the people building a product or even demonstrating a product early versus the guy with the napkin who's just pitching an idea? Is there a difference between them, or is it strictly those skills that you mentioned? Is there an issue with someone building a product before they go talk to an investor? Because I think this is a question people are asking themselves.
I mean, it depends what your goal is. If your goal as a founder is to build something that you believe in and you have a conviction around a certain product and you just need to see that product in the world, yeah, do that. But don't assume that people are that it's going to fit for investors.
Right.
If your goal is to build a venture-backed startup, I think it makes perfect sense to go in with the napkin and have early meetings with investors and just say, hey, can I bounce this off you? Like, this is what we're thinking. Would this be of interest?
Interesting. Okay. And that's what I think
Yeah,
that's a big question that people have because, a lot of founders, that DNA of I'm just going to build it. I'm just going to get it done. I'm going to get customers. And if they don't give me
totally.
money, great. But then I think there's always this question is that a barrier then to getting that other money? Kind of
Yeah,
weird.
and some people are just like, I want to be a venture-backed startup. Like, I don't care as much about what I'm creating. I just want to build something big that scales and is exponential. And I think if that's the motivation, yeah, go talk to investors early and make sure that your ideas, what like the things that you're thinking of building, make sense to those in those contexts.
And in your
But if you
program,
want,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, but if you're building if you feel conviction about a certain idea and you really need to see that real, then go do that. But don't assume that it's going to be investable in the for
It's
venture.
highly dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, I think, you know, they feel like very different paths. And I think that's what you're kind of saying, right? Like, we see a lot of SaaS and app guys that are able to build a product because they have it in their head, and then they can go to Product Hunt, they can go to AppSumo, and they'll get customers. They'll get early adopter customers, and even that they kind of can fall off a cliff. Like they can get stuck a little bit sometimes if they don't keep evolving the product. But then you see the glamour of we say our theme this year is kind of wolves hunting unicorns. So we're
Mm.
trying to we want those founders to be scrappy and be capitally efficient and build products and go sell it with the idea that we're going to raise the money. But I'm always kind of wondering if that's a barrier. It kind of sounds like it still is, like a little bit of a pick a path.
Well, maybe. I mean, there's those two circles intersect. Like I'm building what I'm passionate in, and it's scalable and can generate venture returns.
That makes sense. Okay. And are you seeing both paths in your program? Like you'll see some that'll get like seed, pre-seed, but maybe they don't get to Series A, or some that are just going hardcore. Like, is that kind of the mix of your program?
Yeah, it's a mix. And I think the stat is like 1% of startups that go for venture funding succeed. So it's a small number.
Sure.
And that's it's part of the ecosystem, which is tough for the founder because every founder thinks they're going to be that 1%.
Exactly. Yeah. But
Or
that,
even if it's 10%, right? Like if we can
yeah.
10x somebody's opportunities and chances, it's still not going to be 100% of people that are building something that is fit for venture funding.
Yep. Totally makes sense. I think that's exciting to hear that you kind of have that eyes wide open version of it and that you're sharing that with founders. What is what sort of things are you excited about right now? Like, what are you seeing out there and what are you looking for in founders?
Chat GPT and AI has been the thing that has been the most exciting. for me recently, like after having played with it and seeing what it can do, and then starting to see it being integrated into every one of the pitches that our founders are making. And
Oh, really?
well, they're all
That's
realizing,
cool.
not all of them, but many of them are realizing like, hey, this has got application to what I'm building.
Right.
And I started thinking about it like, okay, what is this? This is like a prodigy child. We've all just been given a prodigy child that we can teach whatever we want. And
Right.
that child, if we teach and train and put the proper boundaries around the child, this prodigy is going to grow into the best ever. And so
That's a
now
good way to put it. I like that.
we all have one of these. And so how does that change the world? It feels like it changes the world a lot, because a lot of the stuff that people are doing is going to part of it is going to be done better by these AIs. And this is what, like, Elon's been talking about this for years, and I didn't
Correct.
pay as much attention, but when I started using Chat GPT, I realized, like, I had that moment of, wow, okay, I see what these guys have been talking about, how this is going to change everything. It feels
Yeah,
like this might be
that
the
makes
most important thing since the internet has come.
I think what they did too with the chat part is it productized and demonstrated to people in the simplest way something that was, change the demand curve from search engine to conversational. There were because there's been lots of chatbots and they're just always terrible, right? But now this one, to your
Yeah.
point, it's a 3-year-old brain, but with superpowers.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. What are you seeing as, I'm just curious about that, what people are pitching. Are they pitching, and this is the two paths I'm thinking about this too, is it the conversational capability, almost like a new UI? Is that one thing that you're seeing being pitched?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
not, what else are you seeing being
Yeah,
like, what's
there's
the
two
story?
that's what I've seen most recently. There's two companies that have realized that this bot will be the UI for their product.
It's interesting. I talked to someone yesterday who's from a company called Viable, and we had this conversation because he's a CTO, and we were talking about building products, and do you still need a traditional user interface, or is that actually going to hinder you in 6 months? Because it's
Ah,
like, what's the expectation of the customer? And I think we're probably projecting a little bit. Some people have the opinion it's easier to say this is just a fad, but I think it's not a fad.
yeah,
I
I don't think it's a
personally,
fad. Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell.
yeah.
But I haven't been excited about a technology like this since crypto in 2017. Is crypto a fad? I mean, we still haven't seen the application. It's been 5 years now.
It's
Um,
terrible technology. It's been 12 years in a sense, but the
yeah,
problem I think is the stacks are very immature and it's not a developer tool. And I think if you look at the previous trend, this is my opinion, look at the previous trend that really affected us was two things: mobile, and then the browser becoming the user interface. And what was underpinning all that were developer tools that made
yeah,
sense, right?
yeah,
And developers could build stuff and designers could build stuff. So you had, like, the iTunes store that became the App Store that became, and they had iOS, and then there's the human interface and the same equivalent on Android, right? What do we have in blockchain? We don't have those things.
yeah,
So focused on the money part that it's not matured, and it's like going back in time to pre-SMS. It's like, give me the smartphone version of blockchain, guys.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas
It's
I
taking,
think
it's taking a long time.
it
Did you
is
did you follow BitClout
a little bit, yeah. And
when that launched in 2021?
yeah,
BitClout, I was excited about it because I was like, here is the first user interface that's on top of a blockchain that seems like it could make sense and like
yeah,
take down Twitter.
yeah.
But it hasn't panned out yet. Maybe it will in the future. But yeah, that was the first one. I'm like, maybe this is it. But maybe that was like the Friendster, and Facebook
Maybe.
is coming this
Or it's
year.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Like Twitter would logically, now that it's got new direction a little bit, that
Yeah.
should be the wallet. That should be the place you develop apps.
Yeah.
I mean,
Could
if
be.
that would happen, that's what's missing. If Twitter became the iTunes, the App Store, the iOS, and then the interface in this case is mobile already, you don't have to build devices for it. It's already there, exists. So that would change a lot of things. Hey, I can do a contract on my Twitter. I can
My
do it now
tweets.
on
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Please,
And
Elon.
it's like it's a politically revolutionary technology too, blockchain.
Should be.
It requires the big changes are needed for some of the things that people are envisioning and in how
Mhm.
we deal with trust and security. So
Right.
yeah, I was excited
Verify me.
about
Come
it.
on, man. Verify me.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with AI. Maybe, yeah, but it seems like there's a bunch of stuff that's happening now, like the AI art and the
Right.
music,
Yep.
and that is the art is incredible. If anybody
That's
hasn't seen
pretty
the art,
awesome. Like Mid Journey and Dolly 2 and
yeah, there's an
there's
app
a
called Wonder that my friend has been
Wonder, right?
stuff. Yeah,
That's why. So my hypothesis is that blockchain will only become useful as AI makes it for us. So if blockchain becomes generative, because right now it's
mm,
like the hobbyist phase. So maybe we skip the developer phase and we go right to generative, which is, hey, Chat GPT, form a DAO for me. Set up voting for me. I don't care what the platform is. You recommend the platform and you set it up. That would solve the problem. Like we should
interesting.
just skip the developer piece because right now it's just a bunch of Java nonsense, right? And trying to decentralize everything. And really what they're doing is centralizing everything. Anyways, it's interesting to hear that your startups are including that in there. And I think it's really, I agree with you. I think that that's transformative. So it's kind of curious to hear what your opinion on that was. Not to go down that rabbit
Yeah,
hole too far. I apologize.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's
Yeah,
exciting. It's fun to have the technology that we can all use that feels like it could be as important as the internet. And
right. And
and
that's what blockchain should have been. But this is what AI is. It is now stop pushing buttons on software, do the thing on the software for me.
yeah, and like writing code, like
That's
I talked to a developer, a guy who is in our sphere, and he's like, the AI writes better code than me, and I've been doing this for 10 years.
right. Code's a nightmare. It's like
Yeah.
all if you look at code, I don't know, you're a coder, right?
No, but I have coded. I
You
studied
have coded,
engineering.
yeah.
So, yeah.
It's it's chaos. It's different all over the place in
Totally. Yeah.
what
Right.
country, what person. Like it's,
Right.
it's
It's not
behind the
standardized. How to
picture
make a button could be done like 10 different ways, probably.
at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, sorry to go down that path, but I was excited to hear that people are incorporating that in their stories. The I'll be conscious of your time. A couple of quick things. What's the role of community and partnerships been in your success so far?
Yeah. With Fulcrum, you mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Like,
well, we have an alumni network now because we've had over 75 companies go through the program. So we've got founders out there who feed things back to us, and we try to feed stuff out to them and have them be alive in each other's lives. So that's
amazing.
really beautiful. We have a mentor network now who have collectively raised over $500 million,
Wow,
and
that's great.
it's a lot,
That's
it's
amazing.
so our mentors are a big part of our current program. And then we're trying to figure out ways to connect our mentors with our investor guests and just build community around what we're doing, which is helping companies build things that are impactful and that are mission driven. So
That
yeah,
is
it's
amazing.
been
Wow,
a part of it.
that's incredible. How long have you been running this, by the way? I forget to ask. I know you have like you said 18 companies now, 75
Yeah,
today.
yeah. We did our first cohort in 2021, right
Oh,
as the
great.
pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then how long is the program typically?
It's 3 months.
Cool. And then you're doing it every quarter?
Yep. Yeah, we've been doing it 4 times a year. Um, Yep. Took a little
That's
break, retooled it, launched it again.
I love it. All right. So how do founders get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can go to fulcrumventureaccelerator.com, and you can email me, William at fulcrumventureaccelerator.com, or find me on the internet. You can just Google
All
me.
the webs. Are you on Twitter?
I
Twitter
am
and
on Twitter. I don't use it that much, but
okay.
tweet at me, people.
Do you
Get get
prefer
get,
LinkedIn?
get me to Twitter. Yep, I'm on LinkedIn. Yep.
Cool. All right. The final thing is, as you know, first of all, I want to thank you for your time today. I was excited to hear about your program. I'm also excited to hear you're in Nashville. So when we come to Nashville, we're going to do a dinner at some point this year. I don't know the date yet, but we obviously want to invite you. And if there's founders that you think we should invite also, it's usually a founder and investor dinner with 12, 15 people. So I'm
Awesome.
going to extend that invite. Also, as you know, we've just started moving our pitch events onto Stong. So we had a little bit of a hiccup today on it. So our first one's now February 7th, but we've got basically every month after that. We'd love to talk to you about A, being a judge, and B, if you have startups that are at the point where they want to pitch, maybe we can partner up on 1 month and put your startups in. It's usually
For
five
sure.
startups, three judges, but that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely have folks that would be interested.
Great. That's amazing. All right. So the final thing is, as you know, when we have interesting people on the Form Your Own Pack podcast, we like you to nominate other founders or investors in scalable ventures. So who would you, Will, like to nominate as a future guest?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Matt Wampler at ClearCogs, which is a really exciting AI operating system for restaurants. They're doing fractional CFO for restaurants, and it's
Oh,
one of the companies I'm excited about in our cohort. Um, and then yes, Steve Dickerman also is the CEO of Sangria, which is a really interesting SaaS product that helps big enterprises buy and sell SaaS software and integrate it properly.
that is amazing. All right, we will accept both of those nominations. Those are terrific, and we will include details on how to get in touch with Will in the show notes. Will, thank you so much for spending time with me, and I apologize if we went down a rabbit hole, but I was excited to hear what you're seeing because you're on the front line. So
Yeah,
thank you
man.
so much.
Thank you, Michael. It's been great.
Awesome. This has been another episode. We look forward to following your journey, Will.